Hello everyone and welcome to the 29th day of GoGodotJam. This is the last part of the interview series that we are having, and today we have a special guest. It's Goodgis, and together wait a second. I'm gonna switch the camera very soon, and together we'll discuss about Godot, about how to run your game company, and much more. We'll also take questions from the chat. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. And also, please tell me if you hear me well, if you hear good geese as well. And let's begin. Okay, now we're up. So now people can see you. So it's not
Sweet.
a scam, as as Buddy Games mentioned in the chat. So some people also like put like the logo, the loading logo. That's funny as well. But no, it's not a scam. It's actually let's actually, for people that don't know you, can you present yourself in a tweet?
Yeah. So I'm Goodgis, or my real name is Mark, and I make videos on the internet about game dev stuff. And I have a little indie game studio called Fearth that we have about 8 people part of the studio, and we make games from everything from digital to physical to anything. Even we're even messing around with software. We just really love creating, and yeah, and I make videos about our creations. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
No, that's very interesting to hear, and I'm really curious to find out what is your journey and what was your journey up until this point, and we'll go into that in a minute. First, I want to ask you, what do you think about GoGodotJam? Since
I think
this
it,
is the subject.
I think it's sweet. I think I don't know. I love Godot. I think it's an awesome engine, and anything to promote it, celebrate it, get it out there makes me very happy. like I just I think it's always cool when we have opportunities to try new things, new engines, and and maybe we'll get into this later, but not that Unreal and Unity and all these other great game engines out there. Not that they're bad, but there's just nothing beats the I don't know the community and the quality of Godot. So
Yeah, you have a video on your channel comparing Godot to Unity, why you picked Godot, and I also have a reaction video as well from Unity to Godot. And it's really interesting. I mean, people always complain like, oh, these Godot people are just bashing on Unity, but it's not actually quite true. I mean, we do have some solid arguments, I would say. In I received like a long comment like against all my arguments, but I'm still thinking, yeah, those are solid arguments. And in the end, it's just a tool. You also mentioned this. I also want to mention this for everyone. It's just a tool, but a tool can be nice and also can be not so nice. So
yeah,
depends on what you like on using. Okay.
for sure.
Probably the question, why did you pick Godot? It's already answered in the video, but for people that don't but haven't watched the video, can you tell us why did you pick Godot instead of other options?
Yeah. Funnily enough, I used GameMaker for like a super long time, and I still really like GameMaker. I think it's improved quite a bit. But I wanted an engine that also had capabilities of doing 3D as well. And I also use Construct, which is like drag and drop. Like it's basically a little bit better than Scratch, kind of. um, and it was cool to mess around, kind of experiment. But I really wanted what I could call like a big boy engine, where I could make all the games that I could create. And I messed around with I've used Unreal, I've used Unity, I've used them all, and nothing clicked with me. I like Unity just made me mad. Like and I always say this, like there's people out there that know how to use it and they're excellent at it and they make incredible games. I was not one of those people. Like nothing made sense. It was like some alien like piece of software. Um, so a friend of mine, he's like really into open source software, and he mentioned Godot, and I was like, "Oh, this looks really cool. I love the licensing stuff. I love free software in general." Um, and I tried using it. And the first time I tried it, I was like, "What is this?" And I just like went back to construct or whatever, um, because I just didn't have, I don't know, I didn't have the attention span at that time to really dive deep into it. And I think that's what scares people away from Godot is it does, I would say, it has a slight learning curve, but it really wasn't that hard picking it up when the second time I jump back into it. I just watched a couple tutorials, read the documentation, and I picked it up so fast. Like I think I've only been using it for a year, and I feel more comfortable with it than like any other engine that I've messed around with so far. So it kind of was an evolution of me playing around with different engines, and it just kind of clicked. Like the way the node system works, how seamlessly you can work with 2D and 3D, and even like I don't know how small the file is. Like that just makes me happy. Like
Yeah, yeah, it's
so
not bloated,
no,
so to say.
for
Like,
for sure. And like Unity's great, but I remember I was making a game on my like MacBook Pro, which is like it was a horrible idea anyway because the graphics card is terrible on it. And I just remember my computer, it was so hot, I thought it was gonna melt my legs, and it's just like it was chugging, and like I had to download like 11 gigs to get it to work, and I was like, this is just too much for a game engine for me. So it really Godot is captured everything I wanted in an engine where it's like I said, lightweight, it's compatible with Linux, and I don't know, I just kind of fell in love with it. So
you can also use it in the browser, and I know
yeah,
some use cases.
I totally forgot about that.
People with Chromebooks actually use it in the browser, and that's crazy that you have that option.
That's
Uh,
insane.
yeah, yeah. Usually students, because I had like a stream with a teacher showcasing some student games, and they teach Godot in school, and that's crazy. Like having classes on Godot for game development, and yeah, it's beginning to look really solid. And of course, the probably the elephant in the room here, Godot 4. What do you expect the most? What is your most wanted feature from Godot 4?
I think this is gonna come as like no surprise, but the tile set like
Oh,
revamp and stuff.
oh, no Vulkan render, no new scripting language.
Yeah, like the tile set is huge. I am really excited about Vulkan. Some of you may know I've been experimenting a lot with 3D and Godot. I've been a little hush hush about it. I've been working on some experimental stuff behind the scenes, um, and I can see where people have more issues like level of detail, stuff like there's certain things like performance that I can see can be frustrating in OpenGL. So it seems like Vulkan is going to fix a lot of the issues, and like performance is going to be better too. So I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to open up like a whole new possibilities with visuals that we can create, for sure. But I don't know the tile set. Yeah, I didn't even think the tile set was that bad. Like I've seen videos where people are so angry about it, like it's the worst. But I do think the revamp. I keep watching the updates, and it makes me really excited. So
Yeah, no, they're putting a lot of effort, and what's coming for version 4 are a lot of changes, but it don't stop there. I mean, people think, oh, version 4 is going to be released and that's it. No, probably there are going to be a lot of bug fixes, polishing, things that they didn't take into account when they were building the engine. And so that's why now that I've heard like they might run out of funds, that's kind of little. I mean, we need to make sure that they don't, in a one way or another, make games to showcase the engine, or just spread the word around, or I don't know, just beta test the engine so that it can grow faster, so that companies can use it. But you have a company. Do you use Godot in your company?
yeah, that's pretty much the only game engine that we mess around with. We still use GameMaker a little bit for some things. It's kind of based on preference and project, but I really try to twist people's arms to use it, just because it's fantastic. And what I really like about it is like the royalties, because I know people like for Unreal, you have to make $1 million before you have to pay royalties. But any royalties are just kind of like I don't like it. It's kind of like a I don't know. It always makes me nervous a little bit because you never know when they can change those policies, and so Yeah, we try to use it for as much as we can. Part of the reason I talk about it so much too is exactly that reason. I want people to know about this engine and help support it, and hopefully we can bring it to the light. And other, like, there's been fantastic channels like GD Quest, does a great job of doing that, or even Heartbeast and Mrs. Is and all these guys out here that are using Godot
Mm.
and are kind of showing it off. I think it's great. I think it's really good, and hopefully it brings more interest to it. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard about Buildbox. Uh,
I
there,
don't know if I have.
there was 1 or 2 weeks ago. There was like the whole internet was burning. There is this game engine without code, and Kenny, the asset maker, found something interesting on their website. If you use the free version, they reserve the right to get like 70% of the revenues from your games, kind of.
It's terrible.
and
Yeah.
and they had like the pricing models, and the free one, instead of like saying like the revenue share, they had like default, and then you had to go through like a lot of documentation and see that the default is 70%. So yeah.
Yeah, that's horrible.
And this can happen to like any software that belongs to a company that wants to make profit. Of course, not in this way, because this is a clear way to drive down your company.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. That's the stuff like with a lot of proprietary software, or if it says it's free, like people fight me all the time. They're like, Unreal is free. I'm like, Unreal, no, I'm sorry. They say Unreal is open source. Like, Unreal Engine is not open source. You can view some of the source code, yes. That doesn't make it open source. You can't touch it. Anything where they're hiding the source code from you is generally not, I don't know. I don't think it's a great product because you don't know what they're doing. You don't know, like, even with data collection, they could just be, maybe that's how they're making money, is just collecting your data, seeing how you use stuff. And maybe I don't know. But I just think it's, when you give companies that much power, um, they get a little bit less focused on the community and making what the community actually wants, and more so on whatever they want to do, whatever will help them, make their shareholders happier and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's kind of scary. That's why I love the idea of Godot, because it's kind of freedom. And I think if you do use Godot, after a while, you should donate and support, obviously. But that's a different place. Donating and supporting something versus paying royalties each year is a
It's
big difference. Yeah.
it's totally usually.
Yeah.
There was a meme in another. I have a mosquito here. There was a meme in the last live stream that I had. Someone said, I don't remember the name, but they said something like this: people fight or get Unity hacked or something to remove the logo that's appearing when the game starts, and they download Godot and put the logo when the game starts, like they want to put the logo. so yeah, so it's
Yeah.
crazy, like how you can, depending on how you make something and how you market it, and well, Godot doesn't have so much marketing, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but it's a free engine and people love it. And not only Godot, for example, Blender. And I'm expecting Godot to follow in the footsteps of Blender, how Blender achieved success as an open source project.
Yeah, for sure. I think Blender is probably like the best example of an open source product that's like fantastic. Like, I've used it professionally before, at my job, to do stuff, to make mockups, to make renders. It's fantastic. And there's other great software. There's Maya is good, and all the other stuff. 3ds. Actually, I don't know if 3ds Max is good anymore, but um, all that stuff. It just goes to show you that need you don't need to pay for software for it to be good. Like, that's just kind of a misconception that companies do to make you buy their monthly subscriptions, like Adobe or something like that. I don't know. I've fallen into the Adobe trap for sure.
Oh, you got
And
into their ecosystem?
yeah, well, because that's, as like a graphic designer, that's basically all the industry uses right now. So I'm trying to find like alternatives.
Affinity.
Yeah, well, that's what I got into now. And Affinity softwares, it's basically Adobe, but it's better. And you pay one time, like, you can't beat
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It's really good. And I also
Yeah.
use Affinity, and yeah, for some thumbnails. And I'm not a designer. I'm mostly come from the technical side, but I think this kind of approach, like getting so much money from people, and they don't understand, like, okay, it's, oh, Unity is just this amount. But if you put Unity, then you put Maya license, then you put the Creative Cloud license, then you put some other license, and then you get like a stack per seat. I don't know, like thousands of dollars that you have to pay every month to this software stack that you are forced to use because like your whole company uses it.
Yeah.
And yeah, you could also yeah, it's, I don't think for small companies, and you're also, your company has 5 employees.
We don't have any. Everyone's a contractor, so
Oh,
no employees right now. But yeah, we
contractors.
have eight people that work off and on for the studio. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, that's great. Can you tell me more a little about when did you start, what was your motivation to start a company? And
Yeah, so it started a long time ago, actually. We, I don't know, it's always like my dream as a kid. So weird kid. I always wanted to like have my own office space and have my own studio. And we always wanted to be kind of multimedia where we made games, but we wanted to also be open to like if we ever wanted to approach like doing animations or software or whatever, just kind of make it broad. We have a lot of interests and a lot of hobbies, but game dev is like the number one thing that we've really been interested for a long time. So we used to have like a studio that my brother ran, but it wasn't real. It was kind of like kids like hanging out, like we had our own forum that we would chat and stuff. Um, so when we got older, we all kind of went our separate ways, and everyone went to college, and that's when I got my graphic design degree. And when I was there, I actually met someone who had a like mildly successful game called Gongbat, uh, and he made it with Game Maker Studio, I think. Um, and it was really cool. He was like, "Hey, man, you should get back into game making. It's a lot of fun." And I showed him some of my old stuff, and that's when it all started again. I was like, "All right, we're gonna make a studio." And for the longest time, the studio was just like it wasn't an actual business. It was just like friends kind of working together. We had structure. We'd have weekly meetings, but no one was getting paid. It was just like we're working towards this goal together. And it wasn't until I started doing YouTube with the Goodgis channel that it really started to take off. And then I was like, man, like I think right before that happened, I incorporated, I got an LLC and stuff like that. I'm like, we got to make this a proper business. And now it's crazy because it
oh,
is an actual business.
s-
Um,
so
so yeah,
you started recently. I mean, the channel is a couple of months old, right? So that means the business is also a couple of
yeah,
months old.
yeah. And it's weird because like it hasn't really changed. Like we're still doing what we're doing, but now people are getting paid. Like
Ooh.
um yeah, that's the dream, right? So and it's been really cool. And because of the team, it's really allowed, I think, the channel to grow well. um some people don't know this, but I used to do all the editing for the videos, but the last couple of videos now my brother, who's a fantastic editor, he's been doing the editing for videos, contracting him out. He's part of the studio. And we have web developers working on stuff. We always have people working on stuff. You just, no one sees it. It's like behind the scenes. But it's really exciting because each month I can pay more. I can like, it's getting to a place that it's becoming a job for everyone. And I would love by the end this year to be able to be my full-time job, because it's hard to balance working full-time and like running a studio and like accounting and marketing and all this stuff. Um, so it's amazing, and it's literally I'm blown away how quickly the channel grew, and like I had no expectations for any of this. So it's really exciting to see how it's just kind of taken off. But it's one of those things, like it looks like an overnight success story, but it really took like 10 years to get here. Like we had the studio for like 3 or 4 years before we really made any serious money from it, and we had been making games for years and years before that. So it's not like we just woke up one day and then we're like, oh, we're making all this money. So
Yeah, but usually also in YouTube, like you see a channel popping out one day, and then in the another day, and in one week they're skyrocketing, and you're like grinding and grinding and seeing, but after some time you learn that people probably, or in most cases, had previous channels or previous experience, or that
Yeah,
spans over a lot of time period. And also, even if you made games, to grow a YouTube channel is a little different because you need a different set of skills, and you also have them. So that's really something great.
for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
can you say what's like the secret, or what do you think contributed to your success on YouTube?
Um, my mom has this saying that people, when there's a social media platform or any platform, how it starts is you have hobbyists that join the platform. So like if you think about YouTube when it first started, you had a bunch of hobbyists. They weren't professional filmmakers. They weren't anything. They're just people filming themselves, and they're blowing up. And those are like the big YouTubers now. Like you got PewDiePie and stuff like that. He's a guy just with a webcam filming himself. If you tried to do that now, it'd be really difficult to grow that channel. So what happens is there comes a time after the hobbyists kind of phase out where you have professionals. Professionals come in, so you'll have like celebrities will join YouTube, and then their channels blow up overnight. Or you'll have people that have professional backgrounds in different areas. Like say someone used to, I don't know, they used to be an editor for like actual movies, and then they start making like a movie editing channel. Like they're going to take off because they already have experience and they already kind of have credibility. And I think what really helped our channel was the fact that I was like a professional graphic designer. I'm doing this for a living. Branding and marketing is literally what I like live and breathe. Um, so like I had a couple channels in the past and they never did that well. Like some grew, and if I kept working on them, I'm sure they would have gotten a little bit bigger, but I just didn't have the attention span for it. And so it wasn't until this recent attempt where we really tried to brand things well. We tried to make sure the editing was fantastic. And all those skills I learned in school, I learned through work. So I guess what I'm trying to say, I think what really helped me was having those past other skills and bringing them to YouTube. I think it really helped me grow because most people I know struggle with thumbnails, or what do you even call a video, and what do you write in a video, how do you edit your video, and how do you make it funny, how do you keep people engaged. And since I had already been doing that for my job, it just was like kind of second nature. So for me it feels like it just blew up kind of overnight, but really it didn't. It took me years to like get better at designing so I could get to a place to make my channel look nice and professional. So um, and I think even just Fearth as a company, we've always tried to be extremely professional. Our branding, our website, we're always trying to improve it. I think there's a lot of trust when you have high quality, and we always want to make things as high quality as possible, so that people that are just joining on be like, "What is this? This is really cool. It's polished. It's put together." So I don't know. I guess that's the only thing I can think of. Um, that's really made the channel blow up. But it's a lot of hard work. Like editing videos is like 10 to 20 hours. It's ridiculous. It takes so much time. Like so
Yeah, yeah. I see a lot of people still struggling and saying, "Oh man, I put so much work in editing this video, and it just doesn't blow off like other videos that I'm seeing." So it's not always the amount of work that you put in it. It might require some other skills that are not that visible. I mean, work you can quantify. You can say, "Oh, I worked 8 hours, and that's it." But if you worked 10 years and then worked 10 hours, then it's a different if someone else worked 8 hours without having the background that you have.
for sure.
So that's completely different story. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it still requires research maybe, and also knowing what people really want to see. I don't know. And
Yeah,
you know what people want from a gaming channel, from a game development channel.
it's weird too because there's a lot of experimentation. People always tell you like, don't post at this time, post that time, post these days of the week. Um, and I think it's good to experiment. I guess what I found is that you need to make something that's not already out there, but that's kind of already out there. Like the Keep video for my board game, I didn't know if that was going to do well because there hadn't really been like board game devlogs or like stories. Um, and I just figured, hey, I really like this. Let's try it out. And I think people were interested because it was something new. Like everyone's done a how to make a game in 48 hours. Like, I've done it. Everyone's done it. Like, and it's hard to compete because everyone's done it, that it's not, you're not bringing anything new to the table. There's no reason to click on the video. So I guess with my videos, I'm always trying to look at like what's something that's not out there. What's a different perspective, a different take, and how can we make it less specific to one group? Like, I use Godot, and I like talking about it, but I also try to be broad and talk about other engines or just talk about game dev as a whole. Um, that way, I'm attracting more game devs, and I'm also attracting non-game devs, like people that just play games and they think it's cool when people make games. Like you have to kind of be generic, and if you want to get a wider audience, and that's what the real big YouTubers do. They make kind of generic content that anyone can relate with. So, or even if you're an outsider to the genre, you can, I guess, like it's still entertaining. So,
Or at least content that your current subscribers will, if it's addressed to everyone basically, because
yeah,
if you do tutorials and you have like a tutorial channel and you have like 10,000 subscribers, it might be that if you release a tutorial, 5,000 already know how to do that or are not interested. So basically, you lose that 5,000. So yeah, kind of making it generic for those subscribers. Of course, it will bring even more people on board.
yeah, for sure.
But YouTube usually kind of like experiments, like showing the video first to some subscribers and then some random people, and then it can take off or it can go like this, and then it just dies off slowly.
Yeah, that's a hard thing too, like fighting the whole subscriber game and the looking at the numbers and stuff. It is easy to, even when my, like, I know my channel has grown fast, but you always want to try to push it. You always want to try to make grow even faster. And it is hard, like when performance is down, you're like, what am I doing wrong? But I realized that once I've kind of got past that, and I'm like, you know what, instead of focusing on what people will want, what's a video I want? And then I'll just that's what I've been doing. And it seems to be, I think people think it's more genuine. And it seems to do better than if I try to do something real clickbaity, it does not work. And to be honest, I don't like doing it either, because it just feels like, should I be doing this? So
Yeah, though clickbait depends a lot. I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, clickbait in general, like it attracts someone to click. It entices someone to click on something. Of course, if you can deliver on that content, then it's not a rickroll or something. Then it's a good content video. But yeah, a lot of clickbaits come from negativity, from this negative
for sure.
tricking people, and people feel tricked, and then they label it as something bad. And we're trying to do something good here. So
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
So what regarding your business? So now you have contractors, but do you think like you want to step it up to the next level, like get employees, or you want it more like distributed and I don't know, kind of loose? I mean, like now with 2020, what happened, and I don't know now if an office is the solution
Yeah.
this year or the next year. So what are your plans for the future?
I think as of right now, like the whole Fear team works remotely. Like we all live in the same state, like in Ohio, but we all live like an hour or 2 hours away from each other. So working remotely is perfect, especially those that have like other jobs as well. I would love to. I guess the goal is to get me to full time. If I can get full time and keep paying contractors, that's great. Being full time as a game dev, I could get way more stuff done. And then we're gonna slowly, based off of revenue, depending what's doing well, we're just gonna slowly start hiring a couple people full time. But I really like using contractors because it's a great way. if someone wants to make money, wants to get some work experience, they can do it. They can do a quick job, but you're not committed to like, hey, I got to pay this person. And what if you don't have work for them? And we're kind of at that place where we don't we don't always have work for people. Like we do, but we don't. And like there kind of needs there kind of needs to be a couple steps that happen before we can delegate all that work. So it's going to be a gradual process. And like I said, the goal is for me to at least get full time. And that could, even if it ends up being where I'm working full time and then just delegating people to do other work, like it's a lot of work, even just doing that. So
Yeah.
um, I don't know. It's a journey, and I'm not quite sure how it's going to turn out. Um, and it's exciting though. I think it's exciting. Um, Even with the current climate and how everything is, it's exciting to be able to kind of work for yourself and to create stuff. Like it's the most rewarding feeling creating something that you want to make and that you think other people will enjoy, and then like put it out there and watch people like have a blast playing your game or whatever it is that you're putting out your videos. It's super rewarding and something that I'm really, I don't know. That's my goal, man. That's what I want to do. So
Do you believe in the indie game dev dream, like living it, like?
yeah, I think so. I think one thing with the indie game dream is I think some people put all their eggs in one basket and feel like, hey, I should only make this one game and then I'm gonna live off it. What I really want to do is I want to make games. I want to keep doing game dev, but like I mentioned before, I really want to branch out into other areas where maybe some more teaching areas, creating software. Like, what if my studio creates some open source software that helps the game dev community, helping newer people get started. Um, there's all sorts of things that we want to make. So and I know it sounds like a horrible business plan because you should be really focused on what you're selling. Um, but for us, it's worked really well of just trying all these different markets, trying board games and tabletop role playing games and digital games and making what sounds fun and seeing how people react to it. And 9 times out of 10, I feel like people respond to the things that you don't think they're going to respond to. Like, hence the Kickstarter and everything that's happening right now. Like that was the last thing on my mind. I was thinking about Dewdrop. I was thinking about other projects, and then here this like board game comes out of the blue, and people are like, "Oh man, like we want more of this." So, um, I do believe in the indie game, the indie game dev dream. I just think at least so I'm not stressed out at night. I like the idea of having other plans and just like investing in a bunch of different areas to help sustain my income instead of just one area. And if your game flops, then you're stuck,
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. It's also I've heard watching Thomas Brush, for example. He kind of had this path, like making games one after another, and always and living off one from another. And the problem here, yeah, you get into this loop that if the next game doesn't succeed, you kind of, yeah, there's a small problem there. So
just a little.
yeah, and of course you need to have I don't know, not a backup plan, but yeah, do not put your all the eggs in one basket,
Yeah,
kind of
for
fix.
sure.
But yeah, indie game driven in dream in general sounds so appealing to a lot of people. They just feel like to make games as like a living, and yeah, it's really something cool that a lot of people from the chat as well, I think they aspire to, and that's,
Definitely.
but it's hard work. I mean, it's grind.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not, but yeah, working in a company is also, you do overtime and stuff, so it's kind of the same, but you work for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And if you're working for yourself, like I think the difference is there's maybe more stress because all that pressure is on you. But at the same time, if it's something you're passionate about, like it doesn't feel like work. Like I don't know, like working on my games or projects or even videos for YouTube. Like yeah, sometimes like okay, I got to record, but I always have a fun time doing it. Like it's not like, oh, I hate this, I gotta go. At least I'm doing something I'm passionate about, and I think that's like to encourage people that if you're interested in like the game dev dream or whatever, do it because you're passionate about it and not because you're just trying to make a bunch of money or something.
Yeah, I think, yeah, kind of like making it for the money is not the best bet in this.
No.
Probably investing in some shady stocks would provide
Yeah.
better return of investment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. By the way, everyone, we are open for questions. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll take them from there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because
Cool.
it's kind of silent, and yeah, people start asking when are we going to put some questions? And so, yeah, just shoot them. We're we're ready.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, okay. So that's not the question. So regarding, I think there was a question some time ago up, regarding like having a company to publish games on Steam but free with only one person. I don't remember exactly, but it was a question like this. I think the person deleted the question. But yeah, so basically, I don't remember. Do you have games on Steam?
So currently we don't. Dewdrop, you can wish list it right now, but yeah, no. Right now we've just been using itch.io or whatever, and we like it quite a bit. It's a great way to sell them, and we definitely want to get some more on Steam and eventually on some consoles. That's kind of like the dream. But yeah, anything that has an investment to it, when you have to pay a bunch of money to get on, I'm a little cautious just until we know what games are going to do well, because it's really hard. You don't want to waste time like porting a game to Steam if you're barely going to make that money back, or maybe not make that money back, or maybe you only make $100 or something like that. Like, it doesn't really justify the work and the energy that goes into it for that. So,
Porting it to Steam? I mean,
or just like, yeah, like getting the Steam page. Steam is so, I love it, it's great, but it's so obnoxious to get stuff on there. Like, there's a huge approval process. You need a million different screenshots and things, and I think it's $100 to get your game on there.
yeah, it
um,
is.
so it's quite an investment. I think it took me a month to even get Dewdrop on there, just with all the extra steps. So it's hard. Like, I know it's a great platform too, because a lot of people use it. A lot of people want to have their games in their libraries. I just love how simple itch.io is, though. You can upload your game, you can change it anytime. There's no approval or whatever. Just slap it on there, design how you want it to look. It's just easier from a publishing standpoint. But yeah, we definitely want to put some games on Steam, but they're going to be pretty focused. Like, we're going to have a pretty good idea what we're putting on there. We're just not going to put any like little game jam game on there. So
Okay. But yeah, sounds, I mean, kind of, Steam offers some benefits. For example, having all games in one library and updates and stuff, and people just wait because they want everything in one place.
yeah, no, yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I definitely think if you're going to like really publish and put out your game, it's probably the right platform to I guess put it out on. It's interesting because our business model has been a little bit different than what a typical studio or a typical game dev. Instead of like instead of us trying to make a big game, like we're working on Dewdrop, we're working on these other projects, but instead of trying to make a big game, publish on Steam, and just try to make a bunch of sales and move on, we're kind of focusing on the business model of just making small prototypes, making them free, and just having people play them. And I think that's the best, honestly, one of the best ways you can figure out like what sort of game are people interested in, because you can spend, like, my brother spent a year or two working on a game, it's the most polished game, Fear Earth game out there. It's called Rocket Pods. He put all this work into it, put it out there, and I think we sold like 5 copies or something like that. So it's really hard to build this hype and market. And obviously with having YouTube now, it would be easier to do that. But I feel like the new approach it's like the Epic Games approach, kind of is give out free games and gauge what your audience likes. Like, you're talking directly to your customers. Do they like your game? Do they hate it? If they hate it, maybe move on. Maybe don't touch that game anymore, like, or think about how you can fix it. And through that, you put out these prototypes, people play them, you get feedback, and if they really like something, then you can polish it up and publish it as a game, and you have confidence that it's going to do well, and you have a market for it. So it's it's a weird strategy, and most people probably don't want to make a bunch of little prototypes, but that's kind of what we've been doing, and it's great too because people get free games, and it's fun. Like it's fun making these little prototypes and not having pressure of like, oh, is it going to be huge or something? So
Yeah, it's really interesting strategy. I mean, to test the market and see what works and what doesn't work without investing a lot of time.
yeah,
We have some questions. So
sweet.
Thomas Stewart says, "What's your threshold at the point where you feel comfortable quitting your day job? Is it a monetary figure? YouTube subscribers? I don't think YouTube subscribers because that's just a number.
Yeah.
Probably more like the money you're making out of different revenue sources or
Yeah, so I think it's definitely how much money is coming, in each month, and that I mean that subscribers do affect that. The more subscribers you have, the more ad revenue you get. The bigger channel is, the more you can charge like sponsors and stuff like that. I would love to get to a place where I don't have to have as many sponsors, uh, and we could just get to a place where we can monetize it without. I don't know. I always feel bad every time it's a sponsored video. I'm like, sorry guys, but right now we're using like when I go full time, I want to make sure I can keep contracting out the people that are editing and working for Fearth. So I want to make sure it's not like, okay, I can go full time. See you guys later. Like I don't want to like pull out everything that I'm paying out now, and pull back from it just to pay myself. So I think it would have to be like money wise, I would have to be making way more than I'm making right now with my job to be able to afford keep paying them and going full time as well. A lot of people say 100,000 subscribers is when you can do that. Other people say it all comes down to you just release one game, you can make enough, side income from that game plus YouTube and stuff to do it. I don't know. Like I would love for it to be 100 subscribers or 100,000 or less. But it's just a matter of I don't know, figuring out our market. And we haven't like Fearth hasn't sold a lot yet, and we like I mentioned, like we purposely have done that because we really want to invest in our community and have people play games. So things like the Keep Kickstarter is where we can really gauge like, well, how much realistically can we make for a game? Can we sustain this? Can we make a business out of it? And same with YouTube, like when's a good place where ad revenue and stuff can actually pay my income and like be my income. So
yeah.
it's not as I don't know easy as some people think it is. And you got to figure out your taxes, and taxes are a nightmare. Then if you need, like in the US, you have to pay for your health insurance, like $10,000 for health insurance here.
$10,000. Well, here,
Yeah. So,
I live in Sweden, and here they just take the tax out of your salary.
see,
So
that's
if you pay your salary, it's like they take 60% out of it. So
yeah, like if you work for a company here, generally you don't have to you don't need healthcare. But yeah, if you're on your own, and a long time is mandatory, like you had to have health insurance, otherwise you
yeah.
go to jail. So,
Oh,
um,
you go to
yeah,
jail?
yeah, if you didn't have health insurance, so that happened for quite a bit, and I don't think that's the case anymore. That they changed the policy, so it's a lot to figure out, and it seems easier in other countries. Like my friend Reese Geoffroy, he does YouTube and he can do it full time, and his channel is half my size, but he doesn't have to worry about like health insurance is like they don't pay for it over there, or it's in their taxes. um, so different countries, you have different opportunities to maybe step out a little bit sooner and do stuff. So, but yeah, I'm excited, and I don't know when it'll happen, but
Yeah,
we'll
sooner
see.
than later.
Yeah,
Hopefully this year.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think the current trajectory is up. So
Yeah,
I mean, like the Kickstarter already is a success. Hopefully for more.
yeah,
But yeah, we only go up.
yeah.
Barrel Mandev 64 says, is it necessary for everyone in the game development team to have different skill sets? What is the benefit to everyone in the team being good at same things?
That's a great question. I think it's important that you have different skill sets. Like you don't want like 10 artists. Like nothing will get programmed. I think there's some things that you want people to have like you want multiple programmers. Like I think that's never a bad thing, especially like when it comes to working on projects in Godot. I want our artists and our developers to all be familiar with Godot. I don't want to just be like the artists just use their little art programs and the programmers use their software and they don't connect at all. So but I do think having different skill sets is huge. We have one guy on our team that just specializes in like web development. So he takes care of our website. He does all our QA testing. That man can break any game you give him. Like he's excellent at it. And everyone kind of has like multiple responsibilities. So we have a conceptual designer, amazing character designer. And so he does character design. He does pixel art as well, and he's like a really great like support, I guess, for pixel art. We have a programmer who doesn't do any programming. He does artwork
Whoa.
because he he does programming for his day job, and so he doesn't want to program at all afterwards. Um, and he's actually a pretty good artist, so he does art for us, and he does some web development as well. And then yeah, and then it gets muddy because then um we have a game developer who does graphic design as well, and he does marketing. We have a copywriter who also does editing and artwork. So it's like everyone has a couple skills, but there's not a whole lot of overlap in those skills. So it's great to have, um, and managing all these people. I would say if you're going to manage a studio, if you want to work with a bunch of people, I would say it's important that you understand all those different areas, at least to some extent. Like if you're going to manage programmers, you need to know at least how to program somewhat. You don't want to be like, oh, do this, do that. You can't speak with authority if you don't know what you're talking about. And same with art. Like it's really hard to direct people, like artists, if you don't know art. So if you're looking to like work with a team or manage a team, I highly recommend that you have all the skills that everyone on your team has. But yeah, I don't know. That's a long-winded way of saying that. I think it's good to have diversity and different skill sets in a team. So
Yeah, yeah. No, it's really interesting because also feel like you, as a leader, you need to communicate with their own language. Like every person speaks like a different language. Like you have the programmers, and usually programmers kind of hate having bosses and leaders that don't know programming or don't understand and for some stuff there's just not working, so they say, oh, it's not working, no, you must do it, and this is the deadline, you do it. But also probably for art, I haven't experienced that so much. I'm struggling. I mean, coming from the technical side, it's kind of hard to get into the art side.
yeah, for
And,
sure.
and you have also a video regarding like how to get better at pixel art. I recently viewed that as well. I was curious, like,
Yeah.
because yeah, there are a lot of videos out there. So regarding this particular topic, getting
Yeah.
better at art, and you have to go through the process. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so yeah, that's cool. I don't think right now people are kind of silent. For me, it's evening. For you, probably it's midday. So this evening or midday. Um,
Yeah.
but what would be your number one advice for people just starting out game development?
I think there's like the way I learned game dev was a lot different than I think the landscape is now. Like there wasn't that many resources for learning. I had an old Windows XP computer and like that had no internet, and that's what I used to program on. And I had GameMaker 7 on it, and it was really hard because I couldn't watch tutorials because I didn't have the internet. Like This is back in the day. We had like dial-up internet, so someone couldn't be on the phone while you were browsing the internet and stuff. Um, so it was really hard to learn new things, um, and I think because of that I struggled, and it took me like quite a bit of time to learn. But I think nowadays it's so easy to learn. It's so easy to learn a new engine, to learn a new language. There's so many resources out there, and I guess what I always recommend is that um, uh, you want to. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Totally lost my train of thought. Um, I'm sorry. You want to do two things when you're learning. I've said this so many times I forget. You want to learn a language and you want to learn an engine. And generally, what I say is, if you're interested in Godot, learn Python. Like get Solo Learn. It's an app on your phone, or there's online resources to learn Python. Learn Python and learn the core foundation of how to code, and then mess around with Godot as an engine. How's the engine work? What's it look like? How do you move this thing here? And learn kind of gaming logic. So watch tutorials while you're taking Python lessons. Now I know GD script is slightly different from Python, but
Yeah.
it's similar enough that I think if you learn both those together, you'll be able to pick up a game engine pretty easily. And another great resource is Scratch. I realize one of the hardest parts with coding isn't the coding part; it's the logic. So if you understand the logic, then everything else kind of falls into place. So mess around with Scratch, and it's free. It's beautiful. The mascot, it kind of scares me, but but yeah, I guess that would be my recommendation if you want to get into it. That's like the fastest way to learn. So
Okay. Thank you for your advice. Okay, Buddy Games Dev says, Mark, will you ever make something with multiplayer again?
yes, and I already have.
Oh,
So
it's a spoiler.
yeah, so um, I've been let's I've mentioned I've been experimenting with 3D in Godot, and I've also been experimenting with multiplayer. And I will say I think it was like a month ago. I took a week off. I took a vacation from YouTube and everything. I just like I'm only gonna work on something for fun and learn. And let's just say the results turned out way better than expected. Nothing's coming out here soon, but if things keep going this way, um, I don't know. There's a game or two in the works that could be pretty exciting, pretty different, and maybe it has to do with projects I've worked on in the past. So you'll have to guess what that is. But I definitely want to make more multiplayer games. I'm definitely going to make another like online like multi like I want to say MMO, but MMO like is the wrong word because it's not going to be massively multiplayer game. But I want to make another game like that, like Whizbirds or a sequel to Whizbirds. So it'll happen. I don't know when. I just need the time. I need like a month where I'm like disconnected from the internet and everything, and all I have is a computer to just work on it. But yeah, it will happen. So
Oh, that sounds amazing. Like probably some people are really interested in that from the chat that know about your multiplayer games.
yeah.
And some new people. Okay. Dark says, what is your experience with the game dev industry?
So I have worked. Okay, it's funny because I come from a perspective where I really haven't worked with any AAA developers, but I kind of have. So I've worked with EA and I've worked with Zynga doing advertisements for their games, like doing like interstitial ads, like the super annoying ads when you're playing Words with Friends and something pops up. I've worked with them before. I've talked with them. Um, so I haven't actually like had the experience of developing a game. Well, it's weird because I have like developed games with them for ads, but I've never actually done it for like a commercial product. So I purely come from a graphic design marketing background. I have like when it comes to the game dev like experience, I really it's all self-taught and it's just making games based off of what I've seen. But yeah, but technically, like I said, I have I have worked with them time and time again. So
That's really great. But yeah, only for ads. Yeah, but yeah, it's experience. So
for sure.
It's an old code, but checks out.
Yeah.
So Todal says, for solo developers, how do we maximize our game output without getting fatigued? Smaller games, switching frequently between art and programming, not projects, probably. um,
Yeah,
what do you think?
that's a great question. I think smaller projects for sure. Like, I think the market used to be you spend 2 years on a game and then you release it and it blows up. I was recently reading Derek Yu, the creator of Spelunky. He has a book on kind of how he made Spelunky, and it was an amazing story. He worked for like 3 years on the game or something on the Xbox release, and it's all this crazy, like he blew up overnight and he worked hours and hours on this one game. And I really think the market has changed from that just because there's so many games. And going back to what I was talking about with Firth, it's better to focus on making smaller projects, getting them out there, getting more exposure, and then just continue to grow your brand. And especially free games. I know that sounds sad because people don't want to spend a lot of time making free games, but like give yourself 3 weeks to make something and put it out there instead of I honestly we've made more money from games that we made in 3 weeks than we have from games that we spent a year or two on. So I highly recommend that just try to focus on short games because ultimately with a short game you gotta it's the gameplay's got to be interesting. If you have a short game that's really boring, no one's gonna play it. So I would say focus on smaller games and you won't burn out as much because you'll always be moving on to a new project within a month or so, depending on how long you take. So
Oh, that's how did you that we're following the questions here, but I have an additional one. How did you make money out of games that were free?
so itch.io has a feature where you can donate if you like a game, and I find that more people are more willing to donate for a game that they have for free than they are to buy a game. And I think the reason being is if you go to buy a game, for example, like Rocket Pods, is five bucks. I think it's really hard. Why should someone spend $5 on a game they don't know they're going to like? But if they play a game and they really like it, then they feel like, oh man, this game is awesome. I'm going to give some money towards it. And that's my favorite way of monetizing, where let people decide the value of it. And we've made, like I said, we've made more money doing that. And I don't think you should do that for all products that you have. If you have a really good product that you love and you think is fantastic and people really want, you should charge for it. But for smaller projects, I think it's great because it also shows you if you're not getting donations, if people don't really like the game, maybe it doesn't deserve donations. Maybe it's a bad game. And so I think the game makes money based off of its quality and less off of someone bought your game and then they hated it, but then they can't get their money back. So um, I don't know.
I do think you have a refund functionality on each.
Is there? No, they can't. So
If they process, if I don't know, if you process the money, then they don't have, but if they process your money, then they have.
I'm not sure about that. That's a great question. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Sosa says, I want to find all Firif Studio YouTube channels. I found Goodgis and Kiwi, but not the rest. Is there a list of all the channels, or they don't have channels?
They don't have channels yet, so everyone needs to
Channel
go
up.
on Discord and private message Crepe and tell him he's gonna make a whole video on rocket pods and everything. So you guys have to pester him. And then the other team, not everyone likes to make YouTube content, but slowly but surely you'll see more Fearth channels pop up. So, but yeah, just the Fearth and Kiwi and I are the only channels so far.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, a random question, I would say. Conchu Christine says, do you like bananas?
Yeah, I prefer them in a pastry, like a banana bread or a banana muffin. So good.
Okay. Carl Cloutier Gustlin asks, how do you combat the ever-looming feature creep a lot of smaller game development seems to suffer from?
You have to give yourself a deadline. Like that's the main issue with Dewdrop. Is when especially when you make videos about your games that you're working on and you keep like like episodes, like, oh, next devlog I'm going to add this. It's really easy to add a bunch of features because you feel like your game isn't good enough. I highly recommend make a game in 3 weeks. If you in literally 3 weeks, that's it. That's all you have. You can limit your time because you're always going to add more than what you think you have time for. Or and it's terrible. It happens all the time because you want it to be the most incredible game ever. But it's better to focus on just like core gameplay and having a really fun experience that's short than having, I don't know, all these features that's boring. So it's tough. I still fight it every single day. But yeah, just keep your game short. That's the only way you can fight it.
Okay. Um, what all game engines have you used?
I've used all right. I've used Game Maker. I've used Game Maker Studio 2 and old Game Maker, which I consider kind of different engines. I've used old Unreal, new Unreal. I've used Unity, of course, Godot, Construct or Construct. I've used a little bit of GDevelop. I've used Pico 8. What was it? Love 2D. I messed around with it a little bit. Um, and I feel like I'm missing one more. There's one more out there that I know I'm missing, um, but I can't think of it.
Hmm.
I've played around with most of them. I'm blanking on it right now. So
Um, have how is Barrelman Dev 64 asks, how is the best way to start working on a game jam game? Do you start with the art or the main mechanics? Um, or what would be the approach?
I mean, it all depends. Like, are you a programmer or are you an artist? Some games I like to start doing all the art because if you make the art right off the bat, and you get it, you bust it out. It's kind of easier because to program because you have all the assets already provided, and you just have to like finish the game. That's if you know what you want to make. If you don't know what you want to make, I would say just making like blobby block characters and just practice on like experiment with your concept. Like when I worked on Blizzard Blowout 64, um, I think I got like a placeholder model of a garden gnome to use just to get a feel for the game first. And I just wanted the controls to be fun because I knew the like physics based like kind of arcade games like that. It's all about the controls. And I knew if I can make the controls fun, then making the art it was like the last thing because I felt confident about it. So it really depends on your approach. But I think if you want to if you want your game to be fun, focus on mechanics first. So
If you want your game to be boring, focus on art first, or what
you
is it?
no you can make it fun if you focus on your art first, but I think like it depends where you're coming from. If you're a programmer, maybe start with the art first because that's the hardest part. And
Mm.
if you're an artist, maybe start with the programming first because that's the hardest part. So you want to do the stuff that is challenging up front, because as the jam goes on, you're going to slowly lose motivation. Um, and say leave the easy stuff for last so you can just kind of chill out towards the end of the jam and you're not like, oh, now I gotta program this whole multiplayer system in the I only have 2 hours left or something like that. Like, don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I'm curious. You mentioned a lot of games, a lot of like ideas. Where do you get inspiration from? Do you have some, I don't know, some game developers that you look up to, or you mentioned also a book. So where do you get inspiration from?
I guess I try to get inspiration for one. Nintendo's always been a huge inspiration. Um, seeing playing the old classic Nintendo 64 games, and old Game Boy Advance games and stuff like that definitely always inspires me to make games. So of course, playing video games that I love inspire me. Um, but a lot of my inspiration also comes from just the outside world of like other hobbies I have. If I'm interested in a certain topic, then I try to make a game based off it. And I've mentioned this before, but one of my favorite shows is called Survivor Man. And it's about this guy who stays out in the wild for a week and he just films himself. And I always watched the show as a kid. I'm like, this is the coolest show ever. Is this dude just going out and surviving in the wild, um, and that inspired different genres for me. I also loved. There was a book called Dinotopia. I even actually have a copy of it on my back shelf. It's about people like living with dinosaurs, um, and like they ride dinosaurs and stuff like that. And it's just like this: what if society evolved with dinosaurs? And I thought it was just a really sweet idea, and that gave me the idea for Stone and Bone, like my dinosaur survival game. So you, I guess I look outside and I look at the things around me, and I try to get inspiration from there and think, what's something new, what's something different. I think the problem is sometimes game devs only look at other games, and that really limits the type of game you can make because it puts yourself in a box. Um, and like with the Keep board game, I really wanted a certain type of board game. It didn't exist because I was trying to make it based like I wanted a board game that was like a video game, and no one had made a game like that. Like no, like that'll never work or whatever. Um, so instead of I could have looked at a bunch of different board games and like I want to make a board game like this board game, but instead I looked outside. I looked at a different area. Like I want to make a board game like a video game, and because of it, it brought a fresh approach in it. I think it's why like the game plays so well and it's so much fun, um, because you're looking outside. It's not like this little area where you're just getting the same ideas from. So I just recommend if you like, I don't know, if you like fishing, like in real life, make a fishing game or make something that incorporates that or elements of it. So look around you and be inspired, because that's what, and write it down too. Most people like have a great idea and they never write it down. I literally write down a list of like, oh, what about this game? I think one of my game ideas was like a cooking roguelike where you have to like cook to fight enemies or something like that. I don't know. Just think of something crazy, put it down on a list, and look back at it later and think, hey, is this worth making? So
That's really interesting. And this advice is also for businesses, kind of like businesses taking advice from not taking, I don't know, ideas from totally different other other businesses. For example, like game development taking from, I don't know, banking or something.
yeah,
I I've heard the story like how the drive-through was invented for fast food. It was actually invented first by banks to allow like cash out quickly or something, and then like someone realized, hey, wait a second, we can do this for fast food, and they that's how it exists right now. So ideas are everywhere, but usually they're in different things than most people tend to look for. Um,
for sure.
so what do you regret, or do you regret anything about your game dev journey?
Um, it's a great question. I think the only thing I regret so far is I wish I had like a better understanding of code early on. Like I wish I had better resources, or I would have like pushed a little bit more when I was younger because there's still mistakes that I make that are like totally avoidable. Like I would say I have a pretty good understanding of coding now. I've done multiplayer stuff, I've done networking, I've done 3D games, but sometimes like even something as simple as a 2D array, I'll just like, what am I doing again? And then I'll have someone younger than me be like, oh, it's simple. You just do this. I'm like, oh my goodness. So understanding the fundamental principles of um, programming just as a whole, I wish I had. I wish I spent more time on that instead of just learning a game engine. Because I was so focused on learning Game Maker that when I left Game Maker, I'm like, I learned a fake language. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I mean, I know it's based off of like the C language, but it was really hard learning other languages because I only had learned like a program or like a game engine language. So I guess try to learn an actual language. It'll help you in the long run, and you'll pick up engines a lot easier. So
Yeah, and also one regret that a lot of people have not starting earlier.
yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah, just so if you're watching this, the best time to start was 10 years ago, and the second best time to start is right now.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true.
Okay. Do you play any musical instruments?
I do. I play guitar and bass a little bit. Or okay at piano. I think that's it. Yeah. Um, I think I was playing like the ocarina at one point because I love Zelda so much. I was like, I'm gonna learn the ocarina, and I did. But my neighbors didn't like me very much because it was really loud and obnoxious. But yeah, guitar, especially acoustic, is my thing. I really like playing like jazz and bossa nova style music. I don't play very often, um, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, ocarina. Yeah, it's funny. Just
uh,
imagining the neighbors now. Okay. Okay. No, Sosasi says like going on walks inspires me to make slower paced games, and I actually saw like a Bill Gates documentary where he was going on walks and getting on getting ideas.
yeah.
Someone says slap bass.
Yeah, I've played some slap bass in the past.
Yeah, I recently started to watch Davey, and his humor is like so sick. Yeah, he's just crazy. Um, Buddy Gamedev asks, "What guitar do you have?" But you already mentioned acoustic and
Yeah,
bass.
acoustic, and I have like a semi hollow body electric. It's like a copy of a Fender. It's not really a Fender. So they're like kind of jazz style guitars. I used to have like heavy metal, like shredding guitars with like I don't know. I don't. I thought I was gonna be like a metal guy, and I don't really listen to metal music that much. So, um, yeah. So that was a short period of my life, but
Okay, yeah, it's. I'm considering learning piano. I think it's really interesting.
yeah, for sure. It's really pretty instrument. Um, I can play enough that I sound like I have lessons, but I can't read sheet music. Once I see sheet music, I'm like, oh, it's time to move on.
Okay, did you? Buddy Game Dev says the brands, but you already said like something similar to a Fender,
Yeah,
or
it's called an SX. It's like an off brand. I used to
oh,
have an Ibanez, but all my stuff. I do have a Fender acoustic that someone gave me. That imagine Goodgis in a metal band. Yeah, that's
yeah.
not happening.
Well, if it doesn't work with game development, we'll see. We'll see you start a rock band.
I don't know that photo I sent you for the thumbnail.
Yeah,
That's pretty
exactly.
like pretty edgy. That there you
Just
go.
put a guitar in your hands in that picture, and we're
Y-
set.
There you go.
Have a rock band in the making here.
Yeah.
Um, so, what do you think Godot 4 or Godot in general needs to have to become a mainstream game engine?
I think it just needs a couple uh big developers to make games with it. I heard rumors. I don't know if it's true. This may be totally wrong and I may be tricking all of you, but I heard rumors that the Sonic Colors Ultimate was made in Godot. And it's going around the internet that the new Sonic game was made, or at least parts of it was made in Godot. If that's the case, people are still trying to figure that out. That would be phenomenal because that game looks fantastic. A couple of the Fear team were talking about it today, so I could be totally wrong. Do your research, but I think that's what it needs. It just needs a couple of AAA games. I would love to get to a place where I could make a game that was big enough. Just look at Game Maker Studios. Like they have a bunch of very successful games there, indie games that have been made with it. And all it took was like one or two to really attract a bunch of people to Game Maker. And now you have like Hyperlight Drifter and Downwell and Undertale and all these games. So I think Godot we just need good game developers. And I'm hoping that by us talking about it, there's just going to be like some super talented kids that are going to start messing around with it, and in a couple of years make something awesome. So
Yeah, yeah, but also providing the necessary resources because a lot of people struggle learning the engine and having everything, having the ecosystem, having the platforms and everything to facilitate whatever they desire. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
for
uh,
sure.
it's something. Have you ever tried to make a game engine?
No, it's on my bucket list though. I've thought about making like a web-based one, for just like a really less a game engine, more like a little editor where you can make like little stories with it. Um, I have been learning C++, and I would like to at some point make an engine, even if I didn't release it or if I just put it like online, like on GitHub or something. I don't know. That's kind of like a hobby project, because it's so much work to do that.
Yeah,
You'd have to do it just because you purely want to do it, and it sounds like a fun project, where you could learn quite a bit. So, no, but I will someday.
yeah. Some people think like, oh, I should start by making a game engine, but if someone wants to be a game developer, would that be the right advice to give? Like, oh, you should start with the game engine, or you should start with the games, kind of.
Yeah, I feel like people should start with the games because most people that make game engines, they regret it. They're like, "Oh, I wish I didn't." Like, I'm fine. Like, who was it? The guy that made Stardew Valley. He kind of regrets not using a game engine because it was just so much extra work that he didn't need. He probably learned so much from it, and it was really valuable. But if you want to make games, use a game engine. Doesn't make sense. Like, there's a saying like you don't want to rewrite code that already exists. So make a game engine because you want to, not because like do it for the engine itself and not for the game that you're trying to make out of it, I guess. So,
Okay. What what sticks out as your favorite musical artists?
ooh, um, I just listen to like a lot of obscure bands. I'm trying. Who's someone like kind of mainstream? I like Coldplay. Um, I like I don't know what you alternative rock. I don't listen to a whole lot of like regular singing music anymore. Like I mentioned, I like lo-fi, bossa nova. I like really relaxing, chill music. Um, but yeah, I get my favorite band of all time. You guys have probably never heard of them, but it's called Reliant K.
Oh,
Um,
I think I heard about them. I think I've listened. I listened a long time ago. Wait a second.
they were super popular in like the early 2000s.
Mm,
But I actually met all of the band when they before they got big. I have photos with them, but
oh,
Reliant K and yeah,
yeah.
Switchfoot.
I don't remember any song. But yeah, they're like punk rock, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite band pretty much. And I also listen to like a lot of classic like 80s, like 70s and 80s music. Um, I don't know. I just like really groovy, kind of funky music. Stuff that has like a lot of rhythm to it. So
Yeah, that's nice. And do you think the music helps in your games?
yeah, I think so. I think um just even just listening to music and the style of it affects, I guess, your the tempo of your game and what you make, or even the soundtracks that you add. Like another huge inspiration is drum and bass music, especially from like the late '90s. It's like it was like some underground thing in the UK. Like listen to drum and bass music. Like it's drum and bass is not popular at all here in the US. But there's something really sweet about it, and that I've actually tried to make my own drum bass music for my games, just because the pacing and the rhythm, it just has like a very ambient and rhythmic feel to it. So um, I don't know. It definitely. I do think the music you listen to though inspires, um, I guess the games that you make. So
Have you ever tried to make music?
yeah, I've made a couple songs. Actually, if like for those that are interested, there's a couple tracks on our Fear Earth Studio channel that I made for games in the past. I actually mix every once in a while. I do some like audio mixing and stuff like that. And I've been worked with some professionals that have showed me like how to mix. So doing it for like 2 years. I'm not saying I'm the best audio mixer. I didn't go to school for it, but um, I'm learning. And yeah, so I try to make some music, and even for Dewdrop, I've been working on the OST for that. So I'm all about making every part of a game. Like I love that. I love making the music, the graphics, the code, the sound effects, just being and doing the writing as well. So I try to be a renaissance man with that. So
Yeah, no, it feels. I mean, games are art, and usually people that are into art, they kind of like do a lot of different stuff, like music and drawing and animations and 3D models, and you kind of mix them at
yeah,
some point, and
for
you
sure.
love all of them in more or less. but
Yeah,
yeah, you feel like compelled to create something out of nothing more or less, and it has a
for
certain
sure.
appeal for some people. For people here, probably it is because we are game developers and this is what we do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you, Chat, the last question. And also, meanwhile, do you have some like final advice to wrap up the interview for?
Yeah. Let me think of something good here. I mean, the best advice that I can give is to just get into game dev. If you're intimidated, if you're nervous about starting, if you want to do YouTube, if whatever it is, if you're into writing or music or whatever your interests are, just really pursue it and have fun with it. And don't get caught up in what I like to call try harding, where you're so desperate for success where it's kind of like you do worse because you're so desperate for success. Like my motto is that I want to be successful. I want to grow my business and see where it takes me. But I also want to make sure that when I don't want to end up working like 20 hours a day or something stupid like that to get there. I want to make sure that I'm having fun in the process. And I think if people take a step back and realize, like, okay, maybe I don't need to worry about, I don't need to worry about all these little extra details. I don't need to go 110%. Maybe my game's a little rough around the edges here or whatever, but I'm having fun with it. Put it out there. Like, do it, finish it, get it done, and have fun with it. And you will grow. You'll learn from your experiences. Um, yeah, just don't get caught. I guess what I'm saying, like, don't get caught up in all the glamour of trying to be successful. Obviously, we all strive for that goal. We all want to be successful. It's probably like everyone's dream on the stream to make a game and for it to be like, oh, you get $1 million and then you can just make games the rest of your life or whatever. Um, but things don't always work out exactly the way you plan them to. So just enjoy the process and the learning, and yeah, just don't put pressure on yourself. So enjoy it, and it won't feel like a job. It won't feel like a responsibility, and you'll find that you'll grow way faster and go way further if you do that. So
Yeah, and you said it there, like don't put pressure, don't be hard on yourself,
yeah,
and if something doesn't work out, it's not your fault. And
yeah,
because self-blaming
yeah,
is high.
yeah. It's hard. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always it's easy for us to always like, oh, like I should have done this or that. Like it could have been the timing of anything. It could have been something else. It could have been, you know, sometimes even with videos, you could post a video, but it's during exam week or something, and no one watches it because performance is lower that week or something. You never know the outside forces that can stop you in your tracks. So just do it for yourself, and if you do it for yourself, then you'll always be happy because you'll be happy because you're doing it. You're making something you want to see
Yeah.
and that you want to play. So.
Yeah, really solid advice. Cool. And for the last question from the chat, we're not gonna go with meme song, but because it's a meme question. Nah, we go with. Do you value being a jack of all trades rather than being over specialized in a single field for game development?
Yeah, I think so. I think just everyone's personality is different. There's I don't know, people say there's like divers where there's people that can dive really deep into a subject. I know people like that. Well, they'll spend 3 or 4, maybe 10 years on one hobby, one thing, and they're just consumed by it. And then there's other people that are like skimmers where they they want to learn about something for like a week or a month and then they move on to something else. And I think both are valuable. Um, and you need to understand which one you are. Like, do you like to really invest a long period of time, or do you like to experiment and try different things, and then play off of their strengths? Like, if you're really good at specializing in one area, then go full force into it. Be the best you can be in it, and learn everything you can. If you can't, if you don't like me, I don't have the attention span sometimes to dig super deep into things. I love learning about things in short bursts, and then working on them like every once in a while. um, then it's for me, it's important that I just learn new things, experiment. um, I used to get mad at myself because I'd have a new hobby every week, like literally, and it's still like it's like every 2 weeks I'll find something new I'm interested in outside of game dev, of course, and YouTube. But and I'll just kind of explore it. Like one week it could be playing chess. Like I got really into chess and understanding all the pieces, how it, like the strategies and stuff like that. And now I'm not playing it as much now, but I learned so much by just doing that research in chess that I don't know when it'll help me, but I'm sure someday I'll do something. I'm like, you know what? It's like chess or something. Like there's always overlap with what you learn. So anyway, so I just recommend whatever your personality type is. If you really have a hard time focusing on one thing, then find different aspects about that thing that you can learn about. So like even you could learn multiple things about a game engine, and keep it fresh and keep it unique. So
Cool. That's awesome. Awesome. I think I'm in the category of learning more things. I also did the chess thing.
yeah, yeah,
So I found like this channel Agad Mator, and I've been watching like his series, like has some cool series. By the way, I recommend them.
yeah.
The
sure.
Morphe saga is like 100 videos or something. He comments like chess games, but also shows like other possible moves. It's quite fun to watch, I'd say.
For sure. That's sweet. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's something about learning that's just so much fun. Like, I
yeah,
if you ever have an opportunity to learn and something's inspiring, just go after it, learn it, take the time.
yeah.
Um, so
Sometimes more than actually putting it to practice.
yeah, that's true. There's a lot of things I know about that I've probably never done. So
Yeah, cool, cool. Then thank you a lot for accepting the invitation to the interview.
yeah, it's
Uh,
my pleasure.
and I look forward to your success and like finishing up the Kickstarter campaign and seeing where Keep is gonna go. And fingers crossed, this year is gonna be your year.
Yeah,
That's
that'd be awesome. So
okay. I'll switch a little the camera and then I'll come back to you. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. And this now we're into the review period. We are gonna stream. We already started streaming gameplays from your submissions. So if you're interested in that, go check GoGodotJam.com in the program section. We already have a stream coming up, I think, in 2 hours. So stay tuned. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.